Good afternoon, welcome to another AP US History video with Mr. Pate. Today we're looking at World War I on the home front. Our essential questions for today are: how did life change for Americans during World War I on the home front at home? And how did the US government deal with dissidents during World War I? Those people who were against the war or anti-US government. Well, we start with war aims. Woodrow Wilson, when the United States gets pulled into the war, after the Zimmerman Note, after the resuming of unrestricted warfare by the German submarines, when the United States gets pulled in, Wilson, who had earlier campaigned on keeping the United States out of the war, he's going to say, you know, it's a chance for us to have a big share of the decision making on creating a new peaceful world order. We can make this the war to end all wars. So the war aims are, just like that. Mobilization. The AEF, the American Expeditionary Force, is the name of basically the army group that's going to be sent over to fight in World War I. It's headed by General George Pershing, and it's a significant logistical challenge to get everybody ready to go fight. Why? Because you're talking about a massive amount of troops that need uniforms, that need weapons, and most of all need training. And the United States didn't really have a fighting force that was of that caliber or size. So a lot of training is going to be needed, and really the troops will even be sent over before they're as well trained as they should be, just because they're rushed to get them over before the war ends. War Industries Board, this is headed by Bernard Baruch, and it is a kind of an economic council with governmental leaders, key industry leaders, and, this is important, Samuel Gompers from the AFL, the most moderate of the unions. Samuel Gompers gets a seat at the table, and he basically exchanges no strikes and labor peace during the war for having some input onto things. The War Industries Board is going to basically allocate scarce resources, so they're going to determine who gets them and, prioritize that. They're going to semi-take control of the railroads to basically allow troops, weapons, materials to get where they need to go. So it's a streamlining of the industrial war machine is what the War Industry Board does. Now during this entire period, even before the United States gets involved, once World War I starts, you have booming business. Some workers earn 5 to 10 times their pre-war wage. There was such high demand. Some women get jobs in the workforce, and lots of minorities. The war results in the Great Migration, especially after U.S. troops, white men are joining the war in large numbers. You have U.S. troops going abroad, and you have a deficit of workers at home. So you're going to have hundreds of thousands of African Americans that are going to move out of the South and permanently relocate in northern cities and get these high-paying, good jobs, and then of course they will stay settled there once they're there. Okay, the Committee of Public Information. This is also known as the Creel Committee, and essentially it was a propaganda machine for the government. So the Committee of Public Information, it's going to have people giving speeches on street corners before movies played at a movie house. They're going to have propaganda films. They are going to have all kinds of different things, but their goal is to turn Americans so they sway hard against the war, against the Germans, and they're strongly in support of the war, even down to things like voluntary rationing and anti-German sentiments and buying war bonds. So lots of different ways. The anti-German sentiment's very successful. You have a Liberty League and the Boy Spies of America. Not the Boy Scouts, the Boy Spies of America that are checking out their neighbors for unpatriotic or disloyal activity. You have composers. German composers are not going to be played by orchestras. You're going to have temporary renaming of things like the hamburger is going to be renamed, into a Liberty steak, and a variety of different ways that anything German is going to be scorned or or temporarily discarded. You have people growing Liberty Gardens, voluntarily rationing, and buying war bonds to support the war effort. A government bond where people will get some interest. You know, we saw this with the Civil War as well. Okay, so that's the Committee of Public Information. Now, toward the end of the war, you have the Espionage and, well, once the United States is involved, the Espionage and Sedition Acts passed. And the Espionage and Sedition Acts are essentially saying that anyone engaging in disloyal activities or even telling people to be disloyal, for instance, don't go and be drafted, or you should go on strike. These things were punishable offenses. You're going to have some immigrants be deported under this. You're going to have people be jailed. And again, it's not going to be the mainstream union AFL that's the largest. It's going to be the IWW, the International Workers of the World, that are basically communists. You're going to have socialists, you're going to have people in the Communist Party, anarchists. They're going to be trying to destabilize the work, the war machine and kind of the work of the nation, getting ready to fight the mobilization going on. And they're going to be the ones that get hammered. Now, some of them are going to be arrested, actually thousands, and jailed, including Eugene Debs. He's kind of the big name to know for the socialists. He's going to run for president several times as a socialist. And he's kind of the leader, kind of grows out of being a union leader for the rails to becoming kind of the leader of the Socialist Party. He is going to be jailed for a few years over this. Now, one other thing, some of these people, like Debs, are going to sue and take a case to the courts, saying that the Espionage and Sedition Acts are violating their rights. And essentially what's going to happen is, this case goes to the Supreme Court. It's called Schenck v. U.S. And when this case comes before the court says in a time of war, if these disloyal activities or talk or speech constitute a clear and present danger to the United States, they can be constitutional. It's kind of like there's less rights if they infringe with war activity during a war. And so, how did life change for Americans? Higher wages in factories, greater migration, African Americans to the north. Some women worked in factories. Wasn't good to be German or to like German things, and people turned against that pretty harshly. And dissidents are going to be cracked down on with the Espionage and Sedition Acts. That's all the time we have for today. Stay classy.